Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started, and anyone else who calls in can just pile on. Ooh, Guatemala. Sorry, getting distracted there. I went to Guatemala last year, freaking loved it. So amazing. But we are going to get started here. First off, congrats on showing up. Seriously, everyone, that is just step one. So many people either made an excuse not to make it, or, obviously life happens too, but the fact that you guys are here just shows that you are really serious and kind of getting your foot in the door for real estate investing, which is super, super huge. And I just love action takers. If you know me, you know that I'm an action taker, and anyone that I see succeeds is also an action taker. So seriously, congrats so much for being here. Just some housekeeping, make sure to keep your mics on mute. There will be a Q&A at the end. But throughout the presentation, if you guys could keep your mics on mute, that would be amazing. Feel free to, though, interact in the chat. I love seeing all the interactions. I have everything up here, so feel free to interact in there. Okay, so just a little bit about me. So I'm Olivia Tati. Most of y'all probably found me through Instagram or know me in real life or somewhere on social media. I call myself a recovering engineer because I used to be a chemical engineer. I'm a real estate investor and coach with a 7-figure real estate portfolio, serial traveler, been to over 52 countries. I'm an interior designer. Someone asked me if this was my real backdrop. Yes, it is. This is my real house. I'm a YouTuber, content creator, and digital nomad. Now, we're all here because want to get into real estate investing, maybe want to learn a little bit more about real estate investing. I believe that it's just so important to learn from someone who is currently doing it, not someone who has just done it in the past, because within the real estate industry, the market changes so quickly and it changes from year to year. If anyone has been in the real estate industry in between now and like 2016, 2017, even as early as like 2019, the markets have changed so much over the time, and things that used to work in 2015 or 2019 or even 2020 don't work today. So it's important to make sure that you're learning from someone who is actually doing it right now and who is actively investing. Okay, so this masterclass is going to be for you if you're kind of chugging along at your corporate job or maybe in your business or whatever it may be and feel like your soul is slowly or quickly dying, because that was me. If that was you, feel free to pop that in the chat, say yes. Or if you just hate trading 8 hours a day or more for a paycheck. I know for me, I was working like 12 hours a day as a corporate chemical engineer, and just want a more passive way to build long-term wealth. Or if you just want to spend more time traveling and making memories with the people that you love, that's like one of my biggest whys in life. Or maybe you do like your job, you're enjoying your job, it's great, but you just want to supplement your income and maybe go remote, or maybe you were around during the COVID layoffs and stuff like that, and you don't want to be dependent on just one stream of income. Traveling is life. Yes, it is. Love that. Love that. Or maybe you're just meant to do something more in life, but really just don't know where to start. Okay, now this masterclass is not for you if you're looking to purchase commercial real estate. I actually have never purchased commercial real estate. That's a 2025 goal for me. Wait, we're in 2024. Yes, 2025 goal for me. Or if you're looking to do rental arbitrage and not actually own property, I just believe in real estate, there is so much more benefit if you actually own the property versus doing rental arbitrage. Or if you're looking to use something like subject to or seller financing. Seller financing, I actually have a lot more insight around that, but subject to is a more advanced strategy that I wouldn't necessarily recommend right away to beginners. Or if you just hate the idea of building long-term wealth through real estate, some people do. I've gotten hate on Instagram from that. So some people do, and that's okay. Or if you're just not willing to get a little bit uncomfortable to reach your goals. Reaching your goals in general requires you to kind of break barriers, push outside of your comfort zone a little bit. So if you're looking to not really push past that comfort zone a little, this may not be for you. Okay, the number one thing I want to tell y'all is start before you're ready and surround yourself with like-minded people who are trying to accomplish the same goals. People always ask me, how did I, get started so quickly and it feels like I'm moving so fast? And part of that is just because I'm constantly surrounding myself with like-minded people who are either trying to accomplish the same goals or who are way ahead of me and are able to mentor me in order to get to where I want to go. So if there's anything that you get out of this, is surround yourself with like-minded people, go to real estate meetups, go join coaching groups, whatever it may be, in order to get ahead and to really just kind of start being a part of the community. Okay, so just a little bit about, that is why you're here. Yes, love that. Okay, so just a little bit about my story and how it started. So funny thing here, this is a sticky note that I wrote during one of my internships, my engineering internships in June 2017. So things I could be as well as an engineer. And there's things on there like interior decorator, which is really funny because I started an interior design company. I've got travel blogger in there, and I did a little travel influencing in my life coach, things like that. So it's like, I always knew that there was something else that I was meant to do, but I was following along the path, right? So very much one of those people who did really well in school, you know, went to university, got my engineering degree, got a master's in engineering and technology management, and kind of just kept chugging along, doing the things that we were always supposed to do, right? It's go to school, get a good job, buy the big house. And I was just on that hamster wheel, not really knowing why and if it was really helping me reach my goals, but just doing what I was supposed to be doing. Then it was a year into working my corporate job, and I just knew that this was not sustainable. I'd gotten really depressed, started having to see a psychiatrist, got on Lexapro, really just unable to wake up during my day-to-day and keep chugging along at my corporate job, just kind of put a smile on my face and keep going. I was having to wake up at 3:45 every single morning. If you've been around on my Instagram for that long, you know, you've seen the snaps of me up at 3:45 going to go work out. And having to go out on the oil and gas platforms, leaving my dog all day long at home or for weeks on end just because I had to be out on the platforms. I was also, shockingly, in $25,000 worth of credit card debt because the education system had never really taught me how to manage my money and what that even looked like. And during this time, there were also the COVID layoffs, so people were getting laid off left and right, and it was very anxiety-inducing for everyone. And I remember looking around at my coworkers, and they were even people who were almost close to retirement, couldn't even retire because they were only dependent. The only income that they had coming in and the only thing for retirement that they had was based off of their corporate job. So I was like, well, this doesn't seem like where I want to be. This isn't really fun. I don't want to be in the same situation later down the line where I get to the point where I retire and I can't even retire, right? So I was like, okay, what are different strategies? I heard people make money in real estate, right? So I actually studied to get my real estate license so I could make some money to pay off my credit card debt and then maybe figure out what I was going to do. Then I fell into the rabbit hole of listening to Bigger Pockets, which is a really big real estate investing podcast. If you haven't already listened to it, go ahead, start listening to it. You're going to become obsessed. And decided that real estate investing was the way for me. It was the way. And so I got to work, right? I buckled down, got to work, paid off all of my credit card debt within 8 months. So $25,000 within 8 months, and bought my investment property, Bigger Pockets. So like, a pocket, sorry, I'll type it in the chat. Bigger Pockets. There we go. But yeah, so I buckled down, got to work, paid off all of my credit card debt within 8 months and purchased my first investment property, which was a duplex. And we're going to go into that. And suddenly went from, I sold a bunch of houses during that time, but suddenly went from paying $1,800 a month in rent to suddenly living for free and making money on top of that. And so throughout that time, I was a full-time engineer, part-time real estate agent, doing all the hustles that I possibly could in order to get that first property because I was determined. And literally just from that one property, having all of my living expenses covered and making money on top of that made me comfortable enough to be able to quit my job and pursue something else. And so after that, I literally started an investment company. So bought short-term rentals with a business partner. I started an interior design business and a coaching business as well. And I've pretty much been traveling ever since for like over a year now, while being able to do all of these things. I took my dog to Portugal, which was really fun. So many really awesome different things that I've been able to do just from being able to purchase real estate. So I wanted to include this is actually a snippet from my journal from March 24th, 2021, where it says, this was before I actually got in my duplex. It said, this is just, and I'd gotten back from a trip from Tulum and said, this is just firing me up to get a duplex, rent out the other side, Airbnb my side, get Kiana a passport. Kiana's my dog, and come travel. Also, ignore the really terrible handwriting. Once again, I'm actually an engineer by background, so handwriting was never my forte. But this has just opened up my eyes to so much more, and I've met so many cool people. Affirmation, I enjoyed putting my first duplex under contract by May 2021 to kickstart my real estate investing and work my way to financial freedom. So that's why I say, guys, call your shot. Write down your goals, write down your vision, because it's so amazing to then go back years later and be like, damn, I actually did the damn thing, right? And so now I've been traveling around the world. These are all a bunch of different places that I've been able to go to just within like the last year, different things that I've been able to do. It's about that financial freedom, that location freedom, and that time freedom. So just out of curiosity, which one are y'all here for? Like, what's that thing that really deep down that you're doing this for? Is it for financial freedom? Is it location freedom? Or is it time freedom? And it can be all of them too. Time freedom, financial freedom, all of them. Love that. All of the above. Yep, totally. Amazing. And like, I'll even say the first thing for me was financial freedom. It was kind of hitting that number so that I could go then do whatever it is that I wanted to do. Okay. So why, and this kind of goes back to that last question, why do you want to be a real estate investor? And we kind of talked about that, right? Time freedom, location freedom. What's actually holding you back right now from investing? What is that thing that's holding you back? Anyone want to drop in the chat? What would you say is holding you back? Money, yep. Finances, not knowing where to invest, fear, scared of risk, yep. Money, knowledge, ignorance, too many choices. There we go, Yeah, okay. So here's exactly what I typically hear from investors. So you are paralyzed, right? Because you don't know the first steps you need to take. Maybe you have too many options and decisions and just can't figure out which direction to go in. You're terrified of making a big mistake. You don't really know what a good deal looks like. Flood insurance and NOLA. Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Absolutely. So if I could summarize these answers, it's basically knowledge, money, and mindset, right? That's kind of stopping you from getting to that financial stability, that optionality, that time freedom. So we're going to go over each of those different ones. So first, starting off with knowledge. And once again, y'all, if you can stay till the end, that would be amazing. You guys are going to be getting an exclusive gift from me, as well as a live Q&A. I want you guys to be able to answer your questions. We'll get off mute. Happy to answer whatever questions there is out there and provide as much value as I can today. Okay, so number one, what is holding you back? Knowledge, okay? That's gonna be the first one. Too many options, right? What should I do? Should I get an Airbnb? Should I flip houses? Should I do long-term rentals? Should I get into construction, out-of-state investing? If you know what a BRRRR is, should I do a BRRRR? Should I do a house hack? Should I land flip? There's so many different options out there. And I'm gonna tell you this, every single one of these works. You just have to decide. You have to pick one thing and run with it. And once you kind of run with one thing, that is when you can decide, okay, actually, I don't really like this. I'm going to switch over. But there are some things that are more beginner friendly and are going to help you mitigate risk as much as possible. And that's what I really want to cover, because I'm all for dipping your toes in, getting comfortable, super comfortable before you go ahead and take a huge risk, right? So let's go over the three. First, I'm going to go over three of the most common ones that people get into at first. Right now, short-term rentals is obviously a big thing, especially over COVID. Think of your Airbnb. So anything that you're renting out for less than 30 days. However, right now, there's a lot of regulations around short-term rentals in different locations. If you're in New Orleans, you know that there's a whole thing going on. If you're in New York, you know short-term rentals were banned. And just about everywhere, short-term rentals are kind of starting to be more regulated. That being said, short-term rentals are great. I have a bunch of short-term rentals. You just have to be a lot more vigilant. Another thing with short-term rentals is they do require a lot more capital to get in. So if you don't have at least $60,000 saved up, I honestly wouldn't start with a short-term rental just because they are very capital intensive. I bought in the last year over 2 already, and they take way more cap, and we've got, gone over budget. Everyone goes over budget. They take a lot more time and effort. And then short-term rentals too are just becoming a lot more competitive as well. So just something to be aware of. Then we've got out-of-state investing. Now, out-of-state investing literally means investing in a property that is not in the state that you live in. So this is very common for people, like if you live in a super, super expensive market, like in California, or maybe in Colorado, or maybe in Seattle, stuff like that. Sometimes people just don't really want to invest in their own, where they're living, just because it takes a little bit more capital, unless we'll go into a route where it doesn't take as much capital. Or if you currently own a house but just want to diversify your assets, maybe it's time to go and do out-of-state investing. And some people also just want to purchase like a vacation home or an Airbnb and something like that. Then sure, go towards out-of-state investing. And then you've got house hacking. So house hacking is when you buy a property. This can be single family home, can be a duplex, it can be something with a basement or something with a little house in the back. You live in part of it and then you rent it out to tenants or guests to help you pay your mortgage. Now, people will, I'm prefacing this because in the real estate industry, especially if you listen to all the podcasts, people will tell you you can buy properties with other people's money and no money down. And yes, you can. And I have done that too. However, if you are a beginner, if you've never purchased a property, I just personally would not feel comfortable taking other people's money and investing in real estate if I never purchased a property by myself at first. So before you start running into other people's money, no money down options, all of this stuff, you want to be very comfortable with managing, like what the whole process is towards buying a property, managing properties, so that you're not losing. You don't want to be gambling with other people's money, okay? And I put it in here, like if shit hits the fan, do you feel comfortable paying them back? Do you have the money to pay them back? So I just want to preface that before people start running into like other creative strategies. And absolutely, thanks, Christine. You just need to get your first deal. Once you get your first deal, you learn so much by getting that first deal. You can read all the podcasts, and I've been there. You can read or listen to all the podcasts. You can read all the books, but you're going to learn the most by getting your first deal. Okay, so we're going to go over these. So I've literally done all of these. I've done short-term rentals. I've done out-of-state investing. I've done house hacking. Want to know what the biggest needle mover is? Can anyone guess what the biggest needle mover was? House hack. Anyone else? Any guesses? House hacking, house hacking. Yeah, we're on the right track. So what is your biggest expense right now, y'all? Have you, any of you guys kind of like looked at your budgets? What's your biggest expense right now? Rent, taxes. Oh yeah, fair taxes, rent, mortgage. I already own a place. Yep. So I saw this, this meme on No Chill on Instagram, and I thought it was, you know, perfect for this. It says, if you can permanently change the price of one item to $1, what is it? And you know what most of the responses were? Mortgage, rent, houses, homes, rent, mortgage, exactly. And so that is exactly why I love house hacking, because the whole premise around house hacking is in order to reduce your monthly expenses. Now, if you cash flow on top of it, fantastic. But the biggest needle mover that you're going to see is if you can actually eradicate your rent, right? Because you can go out of state and you can buy a property and maybe cash flow $200 or $300 on it. But if you're able to house hack strategically and take your rent from $1,800 to $0, that's going to make a way bigger impact than adding another $300 a month of cash flow. And so I went to one of the biggest real estate investing conferences last year, and this was the advice from literally multi-millionaire real estate investors, some of the biggest ones in the entire world. And they said that the #1 form of real estate investing is house hacking, literally even as a multi-millionaire. Okay, so these are going to be the 4 best strategies to house hack. You've got roommates. So this is the most basic form of house hacking, and it still works so freaking well. Okay, so that's literally buying a house, and you can house hack. So I remember when I bought my first duplex, I rented out the unit, but then I also rented out an extra bedroom in my unit temporarily to a friend who wanted to come down on the weekend. So you're just trying to find ways to increase the amount of rents that you can actually get coming in to your property. Now, in certain places, like for example, I'm looking at places in Denver right now, and I'm looking at places with unfinished basements, or already places that have basement units or basement apartments. It's not necessarily a duplex, but if you get strategic about it, you can make it one, right? So something with a loft or something with a basement that you can maybe lock off. Also, accessory dwelling units are really on the rise right now. And now you can even lump the build of an accessory dwelling unit into certain loans, which is really cool. And then obviously the classic multifamily. So that's going to be duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. Won't want to go for your first property. You probably won't want to go over 4 units, because anything 5 units and above is going to be considered a commercial property. And then office space, if you have your own business, that's another way in order to house hack because of the tax advantages and all of that. Okay, so what are the main benefits of house hacking? We kind of covered the reducing the housing cost, right? Now, I say almost passive income because literally there is no income out there that is completely passive. Like stocks are maybe going to be the most passive, but you don't get all of the other benefits of investing in real estate. But most, nope, not even most, income is going to be somewhat a little bit active, okay? The benefits of house hacking too is low entry point. Because it's your primary residence, you have the benefit of using primary residence loans or first-time homebuyer loans in order to get in. And it's not even just first-time homebuyer loans, they're just different loans, and we're going to go over some of them here today that allow you to get in at a way lower entry point. Then you also are able to get appreciation on the property. So if you go and look and see how properties have increased in value over time, it's so funny. I remember when I was looking at duplexes here in New Orleans, there was a duplex, or it was either a duplex or a triplex that was listed, and this person had bought the property 30 years ago. They were selling it now for $450,000. Does anyone want to guess how much they purchased it for 30 years ago? Like seriously, someone just guess in the chat. 200,000, 10K, 15,000. Yeah, so it was literally $50,000. Like, excuse me. And now it's in a beautiful part of town. Literally, like if you know New Orleans, it's like right, not on St. Charles, but what's the other one? Carrollton. It's like right off of Carrollton. Stupidly gorgeous. I'm like, this is a joke. And that is the thing about real estate, especially if you're not trying to just like flip houses in within a couple of months, but you're planning on holding it for the long term. It's gonna appreciate over time. If you look at California, right? Many years ago, California was way more affordable than it is today. Any place that you're living, same with Denver, same with Austin. So if you hold on to that property for a long enough time, I would say a minimum of 5 years, that is going to pretty much guarantee you some appreciation. Now there's also equity paydown, right? Equity paydown, basically what that means is you're getting a loan on this property, right? Like let's say you're getting a $400,000 property, you're not buying it for $400,000. Like you're not putting $400,000 down, you're putting way less down and getting a loan for the rest. But instead of you going and paying out of your pocket that loan, someone else who you're providing housing to, you're providing a service of providing housing to, they are going to be paying, or it's probably multiple people over time, right? But they're going to be paying down that equity. Now, there are so many tax benefits, y'all. Like literally, the year that I quit my job, I'd also had my property for a year at that point. I think that year I made about $60,000 or $70,000 on my property on top of my W-2 income. And I made money back on taxes. Like insanity. I was like, wait, what? Just because of house hacking and buying an investment property. And then it's just a low barrier to entry to landlord. So if you're, and as well as entrepreneurship, right? Like just getting that first property opens your eyes to how to actually run a business. And then another thing is, as we were saying before, short-term rentals do have a lot of regulations around them. However, it's usually a lot more lenient if you live in the property. So that's a big benefit of house hacking. So for example, in Denver, if you live in part of the property, you are allowed to rent an additional unit. But if you don't, then there's other much stricter regulations. Okay, so quiz for y'all. How much do you need to put down to buy an investment property in terms of percentage? What do you guys think? Okay, we got 20%, we've got 5%, we got 0%, 20%, 3%. Okay, awesome. So you can literally put as little as 0 to 5% down on your first property. So then there are so many different options. And you can also get your closing costs fully covered in multiple different ways. So we're going to go over those a little bit. So this really kind of circles back into that second thing, right? What's holding you back? And for a lot of people, that's money, right? Especially, you know, like money's hard to come around these days, right? Things are getting more expensive. Life is getting more expensive. So I really recommend, like, especially if you don't like, kind of what I was saying before, if you have literally $0 to your name, I would not recommend buying a property right now. I would recommend educating yourself and really focusing on saving money so that even if you are able to buy a property with 0% down, you still have some money saved up as a backup. Because the other thing is too, when you buy a property, there are random expenses that may come up. And if you don't have like at least a little pot of cash, you could catch yourself in a really sticky situation. So that's why we say, make sure that you have at least a little bit of money saved up because anything can happen. And now ideally, right, so when I think about my property, I've never actually had to come out of pocket to pay for anything on my property, right? Because it cash flowed so much. So when the washer and dryers broke, or when the guests broke one of my closet doors and stuff like that, I was actually able to just pay that with the income that was coming in from the property, which is really great. Okay, so we're gonna go over a few different kinds of loans here. So the first one is your regular conventional loan. Now, your conventional loan, that's the regular loan that you would even buy just to buy your primary residence, but you can use it to buy a house hack as well. So so here's a really cool thing. I literally came out with a video about this that blew up, but even for duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes now, you can use a 5% down conventional loan. So, and if it's a single family, you can go 3% down. Before you had to put 25% down and you could only use an FHA loan or a VA loan. So here I'm putting like the total money out of pocket. This is assuming that we're buying a $500,000 property. Now in your area, it may be higher than $500,000. It may be lower than $500,000. I literally know someone who moved just so she could house hack, moved from the Bay Area to, I forget where. It wasn't Ohio. It was like Oklahoma or something. Because she had family that lived there, but moved so that she could house hack for a year, and then she's going to move back to the Bay Area. But it was an easy way for her to get that first property. So yes, you've got your conventional loan, which is really awesome. You do need a 620 credit score. Also, one thing I forgot to preface, y'all, when I was $25,000 in credit card debt, my credit was literally 580. You can turn that around so quickly though. Like if you really focus on paying off debt, making sure that you are getting in contact with the credit unions, making sure that you are, advocating for yourself to get certain things taken off your credit, you can bring that up, okay? And if you need help like with that, just send me a DM and I will happily forward you some resources that I think can help with that. FHA loan. Now, FHA loan is like the grand jewel. This is such a fantastic loan. You only need a 580 credit score for it, and you only need to put 3.5% down. Now, with an FHA loan, you do have to pay MIP, which is a mortgage insurance premium that it does stay on for the life of the loan. However, if you get to 20% equity in the property, you can get that taken off. But an FHA loan, that's literally how I bought my first duplex, because at the time, 5% conventional loans weren't available anymore. Or no, not weren't available anymore. They just weren't around. They didn't exist. But FHA loans are fantastic. If you are a veteran, if you qualify for a veteran's loan, those are like literally the best kinds of loans because you get your down payment completely covered for. You also get your closing costs completely covered for. But I do know that there is another fee that you have to pay. I forgot the name off the top of my head. So you're usually out about $10,000. Now, there's also others. I wonder if do we have any doctors or lawyers in the chat? Totally okay if not. But I've helped a few people use these young professional loans. But with a young professional loan, you can actually buy a property with 0% down, mental health therapist. Yeah, so you actually might qualify. It would just make sure, that we talk to the right lender because not all lenders offer this. But you can qualify for a 0% down payment There's also the NACA loan, which is really, really awesome. I'm not really sure what a DPT is, if you want to type that out. I'm not sure what a DPT is. Doctor of Physical, I'm almost certain that does qualify, but send me a message after and I can put you in touch with my lender who specializes in that. So then there's the NACA loan. NACA loans are really, really awesome. It's a way to literally pay $0 out of pocket to purchase a property. Now, there are a lot more hoops you have to jump through with a NACA loan, but for 0% down and $0 out of pocket, it's totally worth it. And there's no credit score requirement. They have better interest rates than other loans. The one thing about NACA loans is they only qualify for certain areas. And usually the process does take a little bit longer, but it's so worth it. And I know of people that have used it. And then a really cool thing is you have the FHA 203K loan. So with the FHA 203K, if you find a property, but it has renovations that it requires, or maybe you want to add an ADU to the back, or maybe you want to convert the basement into, if you want to convert the basement into another unit, you can actually, instead of coming out of pocket for those renovations and coming out of pocket for that new construction, you can lump that into your FHA loan with using the FHA 203K loan. So let's say you're buying a $400,000 property. You want to put $50,000 into renovations. Instead of just getting the loan for $400,000 and then coming out of pocket $50,000, you can lump that into your loan. So it's as if you're buying a $450,000 house, but you're getting 3.5% of that $450,000. So super worth it. Everyone I know who has done it has said it's so worth it and just such a great way to get into a property, especially if you live in an area where most of the properties kind of suck, right? It's such a great way to go in and be able to get a lot of those covered. Okay, now here are some other ways to decrease cash out of pocket. So one thing about my story too is that first property that I purchased, I literally came out of pocket $0. Like I came to the closing table with zero. Because when I purchased the property, so as I told y'all, I became a real estate agent. So I was able to roll some of my real estate commissions into my closing costs. So that was number one. Number two, I was going FHA, right? So really low down payment. And then number three, I used a 401k loan. So basically I had my 401k sitting there and it was doing fine, right? Like it was actually starting, I took it out at a great time too, because that was when the market went but I knew that there was a way that I could leverage that money to work for me even harder, right? Because that's what we want to do. We want to make our money work for us harder by purchasing a property. And y'all, getting 401k loan is literally the easiest thing. Now, there are limits. You can only get $50,000, a max of $50,000 or 50% of your, of whatever's in your 401k. So either if the ceiling for that is 50% or $50,000. There's also various down payment assistance programs, like my lender specializes in down payment assistance so that you can come out of pocket $0 for your closing costs. You can use your IRA to invest in real estate, especially if you put that into a solo or self-directed IRA, or you can even get a loan or a gift from a family member too. So here's like a quick example. These are real numbers on my duplex. So my purchase price for my property was $399,000. My down payment, $13,965. Closing costs were about $10,000. So I was supposed to come to, the table with about $23,000, $24,000, which honestly, not that bad, right? Like compared to what I originally thought, I'd have to bring like $100,000 to buy a house, right? Like, okay, that's totally doable. I had the money saved up. I'd really like worked a bunch to get all of my credit paid off and saved up money for this. However, the seller paid $2,000 in my closing costs, right? Because I went with a new construction. And this is what, y'all, I love new construction. Builders are so much more willing to give you concessions because they have much bigger margins on their properties, especially if they're building a lot of properties. So especially right now, because interest rates are high, builders are like literally paying all of people's closing costs, maybe paying $10,000 worth of closing costs. So then I had about $8,000 in realtor commission. And then I took out a 401k loan for $13,000 to cover the rest of my costs. And, the funny thing is I still have money left in my 401k and I just rolled that whenever I left into another 401k. And I'm using that again to buy a property in Colorado this year. So there's so many ways to do this. So cash at the closing table, literally $0. Now, here are also real numbers on my operating costs for my duplex. My mortgage is about $2,400 a month. Now, that $2,400 a month is way higher than the $1,800 a month that I was paying on rent, right? And so, as well as the utilities, an extra $500 a month, total expenses about $2,900 a month. However, because I was able to short-term rent out the other side and I was renting out an extra room, I was making $4,150 a month short-term rental on that unit, cash flowing about $1,250. That's like straight to my pocket. $15,000 extra for the year. But the biggest kicker was the amount that I saved on rent for that year, right? I wasn't spending $1,800 a month on rent anymore. Instead, I was able to save an extra $21,600. So that was $36,600 of extra disposable income for the year. Now, who wouldn't like a nice little pay bump of $36,000, right? Okay, so I do want to cover interest rates, right? So obviously, if anyone has been following around on the interest rates right now, interest rates are higher than they were in 2020, right? Like 2020, interest rates were like 2.75. They're coming down right now. Like you saw a peak in what year was last year? 2023 at about 7.5. And yeah, I have properties with 7.85% interest rates. I'm so ready to get those refinanced, but they're still cash flowing. So that's all I care about. But now you're even seeing interest rates as low as 5.9%. I really expect them within the next few months to start going down closer to the mid fives, maybe even the upper fours if we're lucky by the end of the year. So here's the thing about higher interest rates. Higher interest rates means more opportunity. What do I mean by that? If you were around in 2021 and 2020, you know it was impossible to get a property. Guys, I put literally, I think, 10 or 15 offers in and just kept getting beaten out by cash offers left and right. Like it was absurd, truly absurd. And even my duplex that I got, I found it off market because I got beat out on an offer that was a new construction. I reached out directly to the builder and asked them, hey, do you have any properties that are like sitting like that, maybe any projects that are coming up that aren't listed yet? I would really love to get one of those under contract if they fit my criteria. And he said, yeah, we actually have two. How amazing. I was like, okay. That next day went to go like check them out. They were mid-construction. I was like, I will send you an offer right now. But the other thing, but at these higher interest rates, properties are sitting on the market, right? So I bought a property last year that was listed for $360,000 or $70,000 originally. I got it for $325,000 just because I have now that negotiating power because interest rates are higher, and then was able to even have them cover some additional closing costs or pay down my rate in order to make the offer more attractive for me. So in these higher interest rates, this is when you're going to get the real deals, because even if you're at that higher interest rate, once interest rates come down, and this is what I plan on doing with some of my properties, is then you can refinance that and actually get your interest rate lower so it cash flows even better later down the line. Okay, so I'm literally pulled up this property earlier today. This is something that is on the market in Humble, Texas. So if you're in Houston, it's close by, literally just outside of the Loop. This property is $400,000, like on Zillow right now. It's a 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom. It's 2 units. One side is a 3-2, the other side is a 3-2, brand spanking new construction. So for this one, we're not even going to analyze it as like a duplex. I was like, let's analyze this as a rent by the room strategy. So especially if you're in a season of life where you don't mind renting out the rooms, guys, rent out as many rooms as you possibly can, right? Especially if you're someone who travels a lot for work, if you're like an engineer who travels. I know for me, when I was in, like this was before COVID, when I was an engineer, I was traveling all the time. I was barely home. So having like roommates really didn't even matter, right? Using the rent by the room strategy, went in to see how much rooms were going for in Humble. So you've got $900, $850, $1,000. So let's say $900 per month off for a room on the conservative side. So that's for, and remember, there's 6 bedrooms, you're going to live in one of them. So purchase price for this, $400,000. Your down payment is about $14,000. Because it's new construction, I can bet you that your builder here is going to pay for your closing costs. So you can 100% negotiate that down. Your mortgage right now at a 5.9% interest rate is about $3,514 a month, give or take, depending on what mortgages actually end up at. And then your total utilities and expenses for both units is going to be $400 average a month. However, especially if you have like roommates, you can even put some of those expenses on the roommates or on the tenants as well, depending on whatever makes sense for you. So income one for that property, if you're renting out 5 of those bedrooms, that's $4,500 a month in income using the rent by the room strategy, which is $586 a month in cash, right? And you're getting $7,000 a year in cash flow. But the biggest thing, once again, is not even the cash flow. It's that you're living for free. And for some of these properties, even for a house hack, maybe you may even be coming out negative on cash flow. Like maybe it's negative 300 or negative 400. The big thing is just making sure that you're in a better position than you were before, right? So if your cash flow is negative 300, but you were paying $1,800 a month before, now you're negative 1,500. You're not paying $1,500 a month in rent. That's still a huge win and a giant savings. And when you leave the property, you can rent out the extra room. And at that point, you're going to be cash flowing, right? So if you do want a rental calculator, feel free, like this is what I use for all of my coaching students. This is how I teach everyone else how to analyze deals. It literally goes through the processes in terms of, are you living for free? Yes or no? And if you're not, that's still okay. But it's like, are you better off than in your previous situation? And all of that. This is my engineering brain here. Literally created this from scratch, but feel free to go ahead and grab it. You can also DM me the word calc on Instagram. And you can grab my calculator over there. And then another thing is if you need a lender contact. So this is one thing anyone can go and do, especially if you think you're going to be buying a property this year, go ahead and get pre-approved. I remember when I was thinking of buying a property, I was so nervous to get pre-approved because I was just like, I'm just not ready. And then my lender, like his assistant was like, just get pre-approved, just do it, just do it. And I finally did it and it broke down that barrier for me. I was like, oh, I can start putting offers in. I can actually go buy a property, right? And sometimes you just need to break those little barriers. So feel free to reach out to him, tell him that I sent you and they'll take care of you. But they do FHA, FHA 203K, VA, conventional, 0% down loans, down payment assistant. If you're doing a new build as well, they got you covered. Okay, so we're gonna switch gears just a little bit here. So who here likes to travel? And I would think that's a lot of you if you came here from my Instagram, because that is what I talk about literally all the time. Yes, yes. Okay, I love it, love it. Amazing. So in December, literally a month ago, I made an extra $3,000 renting out my house while I was traveling. Because I was like, I'm not here anyways. Why not rent my house? I own a travel business, actually, so this is so I love that. I love that. But literally, this is because I was home for a week from like the 11th to the 17th, but then I was gone literally the entire rest of the time. Made an extra $3,000. I'm traveling again next month, and I've already got about $5,000 worth of bookings because it's Mardi Gras month, and I'm like, yep, I don't need to be here for that. As someone who has done Mardi Gras many, many times before, we're slowing down. We need wholesome now. So. However, so I literally posted a thing on my story, like what's keeping y'all from renting out your place. And for a lot of people, it was because their landlord doesn't let them, right? Renting out your place while you travel is so much easier to do once you already own a home. So that's why I'm like, y'all, get your first house, get a place that you live in, because then you can really maximize on that place. Because number one, like your house is going to sit empty anyway. So might as well get all of your bills paid for, right? There's extra money too that you could use to pay your trip. You can literally have a free trip. I remember I was in Italy and I was like, oh, income came in. That pays for all of my wine for the week, you know? Some of your expenses too then become tax write-off. So the way that the rich live is most of their life is just a giant tax write-off. And people just don't really talk about it. That's why a lot of people are so enamored, right, by entrepreneurship and being a business owner, because there are so many tax write-offs that come with it. Same thing with real estate. The tax code was literally written for business owners and for investors. And then another thing that people don't talk about too if my house is literally sitting empty, I might as well provide extra housing for folks who may need it or like are coming here to travel, right? There are so many ways that you can maximize your house, right? So you can rent it on Airbnb, you can do house or pet sitting too. So I saw that someone said that they have cats. So you could even like, there are different platforms that you can use where you can get credits. So right now I love Kindred. I have 20 free Kindred credits. So I can stay at, and Kindred is nice because it's like nicer places. I can stay at any of these Kindred properties for free. It's phenomenal. Like I can stay at somewhere for 20 days and go there for free because I've rented out my house too on this home swapping site. There are also different digital nomad groups. You can even rent out your car on Turo. You can rent out your space on Peerspace as well. So there are so many different options. And then the big thing that people, stops a lot of people from getting started investing in real estate is they were like, well, like, how do I manage my properties? I don't want to fix toilets. Y'all, I have never had to fix a toilet at one of my properties. Now, I did change one toilet once. My business partner and I did, literally just because we wanted to prove to ourselves that we could do it. That was the only reason. Never touched a toilet ever after that. But like, the whole point with these properties, right, is like you want to be making enough money, like giving yourself some buffer where you can hire out and provide work to other people. Like literally, my cleaner loves me, right? Because I'm providing her work to go and clean my property and do stuff. Having a boots on the ground team is going to be huge for you. They're basically like your property managers, right? Your cleaner, your handyman, any other contact info service providers. But like literally in the last year alone, I've managed my properties from 6 different time zones, all the way from like Seattle to freaking Italy, And there are different property management softwares like Hospitable, which does automated messaging, dynamic pricing tools to make sure that you're maximizing on your pricing, cleaner management tools, Wi-Fi lock so that everyone gets a different Wi-Fi or a different code. So I'm very big on the Wi-Fi lock thing because I don't want, squatters in my house, right? So the lock will literally deactivate whenever their booking is done, and security cameras. So there are so many systems and ways that you can really make sure that you're staying safe in your property. Okay, so last thing that we're going to go into is the other thing that's holding a lot of people back is just the mindset. So here's the problem. And I was in this camp when I first got started. Going at it alone can be so difficult because you just don't know where to start. There's no clear action plan. There's so many different ways that you can do it. There's no personalized support, and it's so easy to get into analysis paralysis. So I literally have a friend who we'd been talking about real estate like a few years before. He just bought his first property 3 years later, even though he was in a way better financial situation than I was, because he just wasn't around other real estate investors, other people doing it, didn't really have mentorship. He literally just had me texting him every 5 or 6 months, like, hey, you bought a property yet? Hey, you bought a property yet? And it was so funny. It's like when I really jumped into the real estate investing space and started getting other real estate investing friends, I went from, was able to buy 2 properties within 3 months, basically, just because I was surrounded by other people who were doing it. And I had mentors and coaches who were I was able to ask questions and get, a clear plan and some hand-holding so that I wouldn't back out, right? So yeah, basically, wouldn't it just be better if someone could hold your hand along the way, a clear roadmap on how to get your first or second or third property, network of experienced investors, and just honestly, for me, it's the community. Like I just love the real estate community. I don't know about you guys, but so yeah, right now it's just for US properties since I haven't purchased a property outside. I do have people though that are located in Fiji and they really just wanted the property management side of things or just really wanted like the setup side of things. So it all just kind of depends. But basically I'm inviting y'all to book. This is a completely free strategy call with me. So this is going to be for you if you're interested in real estate investing, know it's in your future, but kind of just need a clear idea of what to do when you're ready to buy. You can take a picture of that little, like, what is it, QR code. Or if you're ready to buy your first property in 2024, you're ready to go and you need some accountability and just some guidance on the next steps, like I'd love to help you. But wait, there's more. So for the first 10 people for 48 hours only, if you go in and book a call, you will get 60% off the Wanderlust Wealth Academy. That's my signature VIP coaching program where you get group coaching calls, monthly accountability calls, like very personalized with me, working with me. I love all my students. And also personalized deal analysis reviews. There's a community, there's call recordings, tools and resources. And so you get for free, you're going to get the free courses on the end, which is the Wanderlust Wealth Academy, teaches you how to get that first property or that second property. And then I also have 2 other bonus courses, which is the Wealthy Way Roadmap if you're struggling to pay off debt or save up for your property, and then the Jet Set and Invest Playbook. So that is only going to be, though, for the first 10 people within the first 48 hours that book. Then you will get that, 60% bonus. But that is all I have for y'all today. Go ahead, book a call. We can open this up to Q&A. This has been so fun. I hope that you guys have gotten a lot of value from this call. So feel free to, if you want to put your hand up or unmute yourself, I'd love to answer any questions. I don't know if I can actually see the hands, but and then I can also leave a link. Give me 1 second. To the coaching call. So I would love to help any of you. Hold on. Here's a link. Everyone in meeting. Okay, there we go. So if you want to go ahead and book a coaching call free, feel free to book that over there. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it. Amazing. Oh, that makes me so happy. Love it. Amazing. Amazing. Love it. Yay, Ashley. Fantastic. No, thank you guys. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yes, Q&A.
Okay.
Yes, go for it.
Am I not? I actually wrote down a few questions, and I wanted to ask you, do you have any recommendations for finding good places to meet like-minded people? I mean, there's the usual REI, and then there's Facebook groups, but from your experience, because I'm really just trying to reach out to the right people, and sometimes I end up in I guess they're basically bring a friend, you get cycled in, and sometimes you have to just they don't want to go any further than just initially bring somebody in, buy a course, and there's nothing more to it. And sometimes I get caught into those things. So I'm like, do you have any recommendations of where you want to where
are you located?
Orlando.
Okay, so yes, they're usually so I really like to look at anyone who's super active in bigger pockets tends to be tends to do some sort of a meetup. I honestly find a lot of things through Instagram. I'm not gonna lie. I follow other real estate investors, especially if they are focused on in an area. So for example, when I was in Denver, I found some Denver specific real estate investors, and they were like, and we have a meetup. And I was like, I will sign up for that. Same thing in California, up in San Francisco. I know people who are doing meetups over there. In Orlando, because I know a couple of people actually in Orlando. So send me a DM and I can probably find someone or a meetup over there in one of my contacts for sure.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, look, you've got another person who is
I got one.
Orlando, so you guys can meet up. I love that. I love that. Amazing.
I don't even know how to really do this, how to exchange information, but that would be great.
Yeah, I love Instagram. I love sending Instagram handles. It's just that's my, what is it, business card nowadays. It's just my Instagram profile.
Yes, perfect.
And yes, the recording link will be available. I'll probably send it out tomorrow morning because I have to download the video and get it put in, but you guys will receive it by email. Okay, Corey, do you want to go for it?
Hi again.
Hi.
You were talking about how you could get builders to pay for your closing costs. And I have been driving throughout Houston and I've been seeing things that are haven't been built yet, but have been on the market for a while.
Yeah.
So usually are those independent builders that you're reaching out to, or are they more established builders? Because sometimes they'll say, oh, we'll pay your closing costs if you use our lender and like things like that. So I didn't know what
Yeah,
you were.
totally. And sometimes that is the case. I would always vet out the lender and just make sure that they're able to provide you. Like, if at the end of the day, it honestly doesn't matter what lender you go with. I'm just going to put this out there.
Okay.
I like going with my lender because I know he can close on time. I know he's super reliable, and I know he's always going to find me a really good deal, right? Like he'll really like put the effort in to go above and beyond, right? So for example, when I was buying my property, interest rates were already in the 3s, but because I had a good relationship with him, he was able to get me back down into the 2.75 range, right? And because real estate at the end of the day is just a relationship business. Like it really, really is. And the more people you know, the more contacts you have, the better off you're going to be. But even if they do say, hey, you use my lender, I would definitely still look into it. Sometimes they're independent contractors, sometimes they're bigger builders. If you're doing like a duplex, triplex situation, it's usually going to be smaller independent contractors. But sometimes, especially in the Houston area, you know, there's so much construction going on. You might be able to find some bigger builders, but all you have to do is ask, right? And even if they say no, submit your offer, and then they may counter offer, and you counter offer back with closing costs, right? So that is what I would recommend. And like, even in my coaching program, we go over negotiations, what are different tools you can leverage, what are different strategies you can use to make sure that you're getting the best situation out of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, we got 2 more hands. So Sydney, go for it.
Hey, Olivia. So I was wondering, like, when you get a low down payment loan for like your primary residence and you're trying to house hack, so even though it's like illegal to rent out every room for the first year, is there an exception where you can rent out every like your own room for like a few weekends or weeks while you're traveling?
Yeah, so here's the thing with those primary, and like, this is like, I'm not telling you to commit mortgage fraud or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right? But it's that you have to buy the property with the intent, the way that it's written, it's with the intent to move in. For some people, something happens and they just can't move into the property. Like, let's say they're supposed to be moving, they close on the property, but then their job canceled their assignment and they couldn't move. They can't go ahead and cancel their property if they've already closed. So sometimes they have to just switch it over to a rental property right off the bat. Or for certain situations, maybe you moved and you're like, just kidding, I need to move back home and take care of my family. Or like for example, my property, right? I bought my property, but then within 8 months, I was traveling and renting out my place. No one's going to come knock on your door and be like, you're not living here, you know? So like, I would just say, if you're generally living in the property, you're fine. No one's going to be like, you're not living in the property. You're not, no. It's only if you, let's say you're buying a property in a HOA and they don't allow short-term rentals, or they don't allow like shorter term stays, then you may get into a little bit more of a tricky situation, because if someone catches you, like a neighbor, and they're like, why do you have a random person? But also in that situation, how do they know that it's not just someone coming over for the night or for the weekend, right? So there are definitely ways around it. It's just like, you gotta not just like ideally blatantly, you know, not do the rules, but it's not as strict as like, you're not allowed to ever leave your house kind of thing, you know? Like, yes, you can rent it out, no problem. And depending on wherever you're located, you may be able to rent it out on Airbnb, or you may not, right? It will depend on what your regulations are. In some places, maybe you're only allowed to rent 1 bedroom out, or you're only allowed to rent 1 unit out, but that's about it. So you just have to see what your regulations are.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then, so I see a message here. BB said, I booked a call, but wondering, I purchased a single family home at 3% in 2020. Boyfriend pays mortgage. I would like to purchase another property, but have lots of debt, house, school loans. I didn't think another property. No, so another property is possible. I wouldn't buy just like a primary residence just for the sake of, so do you guys understand the question sorry, I read it kind of like to myself, but not really out loud. So I'll just read it properly. So I purchased a single family home at 3% in 2020. My boyfriend pays the mortgage. I would like to purchase another property, but have lots of debt, house and school loans. I didn't think another property was possible until I tackled debt. Is that correct? So no, here's the beautiful thing, especially if you're buying like a duplex or a triplex. So the rents from that property can also help you qualify for a loan. So it helps with your debt to income ratio as well. Another thing is I wouldn't go ahead and just buy another single family house to live in. I would specifically go and buy a rental property. You're going to have to make sure to get pre-approved, right, with a lender, but it's definitely still possible to get a property, especially with student loans is generally fine. And if your house is being paid for, you can show that your house is being paid for by your boyfriend. You should be able to get a property, no problem, because even the rent that your boyfriend is giving you, that's going to help you qualify for another loan. Ashley, I think so.
Yes. Hi,
Yes.
Olivia. Thank
Hi.
you so much. This was so good. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. This is amazing.
Yeah, so I have a quick question. So I'm the one that said I own a travel business, right? So
Yes.
I'm the owner of Melanin on the Map. We're quite a large community of travel professionals. We show people how to make money in travel and all that good stuff. But with that, I travel all the time. So this is why I want to get my first investment property, but I want to get it internationally. So I am originally from New York. I live in LA and I pretty much go back and forth, but I spend majority of my time in the outside of the US. So that's why I thought it would be best to do it outside the US. But after this webinar, I'm thinking, well, I could start here.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. So my question for you is, do you have any states in particular you think would be a good investment for your first one?
Yeah,
For
so
some-
especially since you can state that you can work from anywhere, right? You're going to be totally solid. I would go somewhere like Texas, Ohio, somewhere where it's low, you can easily get something that cash flows, right? Or in Louisiana or Texas or like the Midwest, somewhere in the Midwest. I would say if you can find a place where you don't mind going back to, like if you prefer Texas over Ohio, or if you prefer Ohio, or if you have family somewhere, that's always nice, but not necessary. Like I said, I bought properties in Virginia. I've never been to Virginia before, but I was like, let's just go over there. Numbers look good, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like literally, I kind of came to that same realization as well. I was like, well, I really want to buy a place in Italy, blah, 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 blah. But you're not going to get those really good loans like you are here in the US. So you're going to have to put in a lot more money when you go abroad, a minimum of 20%, sometimes as high as 40%, 50%, sometimes cash if you're going to Mexico. And that's why I haven't invested abroad yet. That's my 2025, 2026 goal. But that's why I'm very much focused on buying in the US because it's, there are so many opportunities over here.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Angie Vargas.
Hi, Miss Olivia. I wanted to start off by saying thank you for this session. I learned a lot. I already went ahead and scheduled the call with you for
Amazing.
later on this month. However, my question, I'm not sure if it's something you would be able to answer right now or if I should just wait for the call, but I was wondering, since you touched on the subject of house hacking, that is my goal to do. And so my question is, how do you go about like picking and choosing the people who rent? Like, do you go through a company? Do you do it yourself? And what is your recommendation? Like, what do you feel like would be wise for a first-time homeowner for a
Totally.
duplex?
And so it completely depends on your strategy, right? And that's something we cover in my coaching is like what strategy makes sense for you. You can go the long-term rental route, you can go the medium-term rental route, you can go the short-term rental route. The way that you're going to find your renters, right, is going to be different depending on what route you go with. For example, short-term rentals, you're more so going to go Airbnb and VRBO. It's pretty straightforward. With long-term rentals, you're going to be listing on Zillow. You're going to be using Facebook Marketplace. You're going to be I generally avoid Craigslist because lower, like just usually, if you're doing medium-term rental, maybe you're going on Furnished Finders. Maybe you're reaching out to insurance agents. Maybe you're reaching out, also listing it on Airbnb. So each of the different strategies, they all work. I've done all of them. I honestly love short-term rentals. I find that my properties are better taken care of as a short-term rental, so as an Airbnb, than as a longer-term rental. But I've done both. And depending on the season, for example, here in New Orleans, Summer sucks. It's so hot. It's so sweaty. It's so gross. And so during that time, there aren't like short-term rental. I make the same, sometimes less as a short-term rental than I do as a medium-term rental. So during those time, I look for monthly renters. So anyone who's looking to stay for a month to 4 months, something like that. Versus next month is Mardi Gras month, and I'm like, Airbnb that, you know?
Okay, thank you so much. Also, just to clarify, the lender that you provided his info for us, maybe this sounds like a dumb question, but would he, so if I want to use a loan, he's gonna help me through the process. Like I don't have to go to the bank, correct?
So yeah, I guess I didn't say this. Do not pick a big bank. So don't go with like a Chase, don't go with a Bank of America, don't go, because they are a lot less flexible when it comes to providing different loans versus some of these smaller local lenders. They're going to have a lot more flexibility. And also, whenever you do actually get pre-approved by multiple different lenders, because then you're going to also have some negotiating power on your end in terms of getting the best rate, getting the best terms. But yeah, so instead of going through a bank, I would go through him and they would be able to help you through the process.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think someone else had their hand up, but then didn't. Also, someone said, how do you pick a neighborhood and the city you want to buy in? So if you're house hacking, I would generally start where you live, right? But here's the thing, right? So when I was looking at my first property, I really wanted to cash flow. That was my thing. I just was like, I wanted to cash flow, but I still wanted to live somewhere that felt safe and I felt comfortable, right? But if you know New Orleans, I couldn't buy a place in uptown New Orleans, right? Places are really expensive there. And houses over there too, if I'm looking at the same price range, they're going to be a lot more disheveled. And I was like, I don't really want to, at the time I was working multiple jobs and I just didn't really have the time to go through a renovation, not like I do now. Now with this next property that I'm getting, and I've already done renovations on previous properties. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen all of them. But like with this next property that I'm getting, I'm doing a giant renovation on it, right? But I have the time to be able to do that. I would say for most people getting started, if you have the time, FHA 203 is great. If you don't have the time, try and go for something that is more turnkey. And then Dominique.
Hi, I don't know if this is a question that'd be better for the personal call, but we were wondering, would it be better, my partner and I are engaged right now, and we were wondering, would it be better for us to go in to buy a property once we're married? Are there better loans out there, or does it not matter? Okay.
No, so I would actually recommend y'all buy property. You can put it in both of your name on the title, but I would have you both get the loan, separate loan. So like maybe for that first property, you get an FHA loan for it. And then for that second property, your husband gets an FHA loan. That way you can get 2 properties with that low down payment. Because with FHA, you can only have 1 property under an FHA loan. But since there's 2 of you, you can use it twice. You can get 2 properties in house hack, and then you build your little portfolio like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, are there any last calls? I know we're a little bit over time here. Oh my gosh, but this was so amazing. I had such a great time. Everyone came with so many questions. I'll give you like 5 or 10 more seconds to jump in with any more questions, and then we will end the call here.
I meant to say HOA. New builders, like typically new construction have HOA, like they're, from what I've seen, they're tied to it, but I'd like to see one that doesn't, because I've had such a bad experience with HOAs, both in like Brazil and in the United States.
Yeah, so I don't like HOAs either. I generally try to avoid properties with HOAs.
Right.
It depends on the location, right? So it might be that in Orlando, a lot of newer builders do, but I would honestly, what I like to do is scour Zillow for any new construction and then reach out to the builders directly and see. And here's another thing too, if you do that, you can find a land and still use an FHA loan, especially if you go through my lender, to build yourself a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex or whatever property that you want using an FHA loan.
Did you say land?
Yeah, so if you buy land
Cool.
and have the builder come in, so basically what happens, and you can call my lender and he can tell you all about it, but he told me this like a few months ago. I was like, wait, what?
That's genius.
But yeah, you can do that. You can buy land and build yourself, and you can work directly with the builder. But basically what happens is the lender will give the payments to the builder. So you don't really even have to worry about the payment side of things. The lender will pay the builder for the construction.
Oh my goodness. I also hear that there's like 6 months or a year to defer the payments while they're building. Is that the case?
Yeah,
And
so it depends.
yeah.
Every builder is going to be different. It just kind of depends on what they're willing to do and also what your lender is willing to provide as well.
Super cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And then what are some good websites to look at units? Honestly, start at Zillow. Just start on Zillow looking at duplexes. If you go to the filter, you put multifamily properties. So you can filter, like the way I have a lot of my searches set up is just filter out everything except for multifamily properties. Or you can even search certain things like basements. I was on a call with one of my students earlier today, and we were talking about how in her area, she's got a lot of properties that are for sale and they have VA loans. So VA and FHA loans are assumable. So if you haven't, like, if you're worried about the high interest rates right now and you're not being able to get them work, if you find a property where the seller has a VA loan or an FHA loan, you can assume their loan at 3% to 2 point something percent. So there's just so many different ways around this, guys. Okay. I think that's okay, Angie, one last one and then we gotta go.
Sorry. So do you recommend, or do you think like the interest rates are gonna keep decreasing throughout the year into 2025, or
That's
to
what
buy?
people are predicting. Here's the thing though, no one really 100% knows, right? No one knew that the interest rates were going to go up when they did. No one knew that the interest rates were going to get down to 2.75. So I'm a big proponent of making sure to get really good at running your numbers and seeing what works in your current market, and going for it. But yes, interest rates should be going down. No one knows 100%. How people thought interest rates were going to start going down last year, and they did a little bit, but not as much as people were expecting. So anyone who tells you, yes, this is exactly happening, unless you were directly talking to the feds and stuff like that, no one really knows.
Thank you so much.
Thank
For
you
sure.
so much for your time. You're amazing.
Aw.
Got a lot of value. Just wanted to let you know that you're making a huge difference. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, y'all, let me tell you, I like came up with like wanting to do this while I was traveling around. I quit my job. I was traveling and just took some time off of life and realized I really just want to make an impact and like help people get started. So this is how all of this spurred. And I'm just like so happy and excited that this happened. Like I was able to create this and I'm able to help people out. So literally like reach out to me on Instagram, book a call with me, whatever. If I can help in any way, shape, or form, I'm just so happy to do that.
Thanks, Olivia. You've always been super inspiring for as long as I've known you. So
Thanks, girl. Amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. This was amazing. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Have a lovely evening. Great rest of your week. This was so wonderful. Thanks, y'all.
Have a great night.